Episode 9, mate. Here we go.
Yes.
Ready to go. We've got Jamie ready to speak to. Jamie Crummie, the founder of Too Good To Go, which we've spoken about last week.
Yeah, really looking forward to this one. We've been excited about this because, I think Too Good To Go probably the biggest company that we've had so far. I'd say, almost 1 million Instagram likes. Across Europe, they're a global business now.
7 million users.
7
I
million
read
users.
It's probably gone up from there. It's going up all the time. In fact, I'm sure that when I signed up, it said something like 13 million. I might be wrong on that.
I remember we first met Jamie at an event called Food Matters Live in 2018.
Yeah,
and I'm sure they were nowhere near as big as they are now then, because I'd never heard of them, and I'm not embarrassed to say that. I'm sure Jamie had never heard of us then, yeah. But and now just unbelievable. Yo Sushi is, you can try and get some California rolls in a magic bag. That's or some chicken katsu. Some chicken katsu rolls. You'd be lucky. That'll be.
I've never been to Yo Sushi, but it sounds good.
It's quality. Yeah, it's class.
Chicken sushi, is that part of it?
Yeah, you can get katsu chicken. Yeah,
sounds good. I like katsu chicken.
Yeah, it's amazing.
This
is becoming a Yo Sushi podcast now, isn't it?
This episode is brought to you by Yo Sushi. No, it's not. So this is going to be really good, I think, because we've got a lot to talk about with it's a fellow food waste, food surplus food organization trying to tackle the global issue of surplus food and food being wasted unnecessarily.
They're the Uber and Airbnb of surplus food retail.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it, actually. So, for anybody that doesn't know, we'll hear from Jamie in a minute in his own words, but very briefly, Too Good To Go is an app where you can access surplus food that is otherwise going to get thrown out, basically, by either retailers, manufacturers, restaurants, food producers, you name it.
You can even buy them from us now as well. So if you're in the East Sheffield area, Dinnington, then pop in and go. Well, don't pop in. Go on the app, see if you can grab one of our magic bags, and you'll actually hear people. You might hear people actually coming to the door and getting some during this podcast, as we're not too far.
Literally just out there. If you're watching the video, I've just pointed to right next to the door that we're sat next to.
We're boring people now, mate.
We are. Let's get into
it. From Jamie. Come on. Sorry, that's enough now.
Let's get into it. Roll the music.
Jamie Crummie, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really looking forward to this. We've been working with Too Good To Go very recently, actually. In fact, during this podcast, you might hear our doorbell go a few times for people coming to collect magic boxes. Magic bags. That is actually going to happen at some point. So
it's up and running. It's flying, to be fair. Because we're on a bit of a sort of industrial location, we didn't know sort of what the uptake could be from general public, but it's been amazing. We've had people, knocking on our door like every minute of the day, really, for the magic bags. So it's working really well.
It's an amazing business. I can't wait to get into this. So let's get stuck in, Jamie. What is Too Good To Go, and how did it all begin for you? Where did this journey start?
It would be my pleasure. Yeah. So Too Good To Go is a social impact company that fights food waste. And we predominantly do this through our mobile app. So it is a platform that connects consumers or individuals with businesses who have surplus food for sale. So a really fun and simple way for individuals, for businesses to work together and fight food waste together. So it's what we term as a win-win solution. It's a win for the individual who are able to discover amazing new foods, discover new brands, discover new flavors at prices that don't cost the earth. Whilst it's also a win for businesses who are able to recover some costs, attract new customers. But ultimately a win for the planet, as none of this food is going to waste. So the app is incredibly simple. We work with a whole host of different businesses. They range from sort of your local cafe, all the way through to retailers, hotels, food producers, etc. The list goes on. So we're now, as I say, operating in 15 markets globally. and have rescued over 65 million meals from going to waste in just over 5 years.
Wow, amazing. Well, we can definitely vouch for how simple it is, because we were having these conversations just a couple of weeks ago. Within a few days, we were set up and ready to go, and we were having people ringing our doorbell, picking up their stuff. So, yeah, it's amazing. Like the sort of the ease of it to help fight food waste is like, I love the simplicity of it. You know, we as a business sign up, we put stuff on there, we get notified when somebody wants to come and collect one. They show us their reference on the app, and it's easy as that, really. It's amazing. I think sometimes sort of with food waste and surplus food and stuff like that, it can seem, or it can look overcomplicated.
Yeah.
And I think what this does is it beautifully kind of simplifies it down to, someone's got some food there that they want to sell. Someone wants to buy some food there locally, and it just brings it together perfectly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's what what we're trying to achieve is a simple solution through a marketplace, which just ensures that, you know, we can feed bellies as opposed to feeding bins.
Yeah, so we're all for that. It's one of those. It's an unbelievable idea, and it's one of those things where, a bit like Airbnb, where before it started, you know, they were like, "Oh, what? So strangers are going to come and live in your house?" And you arrange it all. It's a bit like that, and I can't wait to hear how this idea got going and how it started in your head, because it's like, what? So people are going to come to your premises and just take food off or buy food off you without money changing hands physically. Surplus food that you'd normally throw away at the end of the day. That's just, what?
It's disruptive, to say the least.
Yeah, I know.
So what were the early sort of responses to that, when you sort of had this idea and you put it out there into the world and started to tell people about it? What did people say?
Yeah, so I think we've definitely got a bit better at communicating communicating how it all works, because, you know, certainly when I look back to, you know, 2015, I'm telling friends and family about, you know, this app, this idea that we're going to get and start building. And, you know, the reaction was, oh, well, we don't want to be eating, you know, food off people's plates. And, you know, this is the total sort of misconception behind what food waste really is. And it's 9 times out of 10 perfectly good food, which is just being thrown away due to inefficiencies across the food value chain. And, you know, that there has been something that we've totally seen a transformation in just the way that people perceive food surplus. So, you know, from originally being seen as something that sits on people's plates to actually recognizing that there's perfectly good food being thrown away on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've seen that as well, because we started our business in 2018, and even in that time, in the last 3 years, we've seen a bit of a shift in terms of the public's perception, especially on past best before date food, which we're sort of throwing our minuscule weight behind your date label campaign to try and educate people on best before dates, and the fact that just because food passes that, you know, it doesn't mean that there's a safety issue with it and stuff like that. We've seen that change. I genuinely think that probably a few years ago, we would have had sort of a lot of a less enthusiastic response to doing that, and to marketing food that's either close to or just past its date. And I think obviously innovation such as what you've brought to the industry is what's sort of helped to drive that along. So it's an amazing achievement for the 65 million meals. A lot more than I thought. I read 45 million. I think that was as of about 6 months ago. So you must have it must be growing sort of exponentially, really.
Yeah, yes, it is. It really is growing at a rate of knots. But I just want to pick up on what you just said there as well, which is, you know, essentially changing the way in which we perceive food surplus or food waste. And, you know, I wonder, you know, if we can actually sort of rebrand food waste itself. You know, it's a term which just sort of denotes something that it's a inferior product or it's inferior quality. And what we're talking about here is it's perfectly good food, and for just a whole host of inefficiencies, it's getting thrown away. And as you touch on there, like products beyond their best before date, they're still perfectly fine. They're still tasty, they're still delicious. It's just the further they go beyond their best before date, that's where the quality will start to alter. But it doesn't necessarily make it any worse. It just makes it different.
Yeah. How important do you think language and sort of the way that we think about these things is to this? Because our old boss at the place we used to work, Company Shop, a fellow surplus food business, always used to say, if you think of it as waste, that you treat it as waste. But if you think of it as food, you treat it as something that's got value and has got time and effort and hours and money and resources gone into creating it. So how important do you think that is in terms of like the way that we think about it and the way that we talk about it?
Totally, yeah. It's about a mindset shift, isn't it, on how we approach food and particularly surplus food. And I think it's often around getting back to basics. If we appreciate and understand like that intrinsic value that food has to us, we recognize it as this invaluable resource. Food is something which keeps us going. It keeps us alive. It's imperative to our survival. It's imperative to our development. It is literally a fuel in which we put into us to ensure that we can perform better. But at the same time, it's also this social glue. It's this piece that brings us all together around the table, whether it's with friends or with family. And it's as I say, this social glue that's bringing us all together, whilst at the same time being fundamental to our own development and to our own survival. So if we can recognize that and start seeing food as something which is imperative to our own being, we can start treating it with the value that it deserves, rather than, as you say, it's something which is a waste product, a byproduct, but as something that is precious to us and something which brings us so much joy in different parts of our lives. So I really believe it's about this mindset shift, so we can start appreciating the true value of food rather than trying to put a price tag on it.
Yeah, we totally agree. We'll probably get onto the sort of chronology of how Too Good To Go came about in a minute, but just going back to that bit that you said there about the social glue, I wanted to ask you sort of how, because Too Good To Go is obviously an app and people don't have to interact with a person directly to buy from it. Yeah. We don't have to interact directly with someone until they actually come to our door to pick something up when we put products on there. But how much of a community element do you think there is around Too Good To Go, and how important do you think that is to its success?
Yeah, it's really important for us, and what we refer to it more so than a community is around a movement around food waste. So it is about generating this movement in which we can inspire and empower people across the world to start fighting food waste together. So when I'm talking around this movement and what we do, like we have our app as our primary business, our primary focus, but what this allows us to do is to fund initiatives with doing work within households, additional work with businesses, or work within schools, and also work in public affairs as well to try and spark this policy change. So spark this policy change around food waste. So it's very much a movement, a community which is striving towards this vision, which is a planet with no food waste. And at the heart of this is the aspect of community, or the aspect of collaboration, of working together.
Yeah. Well, we're proud to be a part of it, and I'm sure every user that uses it is as well.
Yeah, it makes buying surplus food normal. Your app's unbelievable, and it just feels like, and when we set out our business, we wanted to make buying surplus food something that's available to people and becomes part and parcel of normal life and shopping. Because I don't want to, I'm not slagging off retailers, but like the yellow sticker end of an aisle in supermarkets, it looks terrible, and it's messy and it's always unkept, and that is surplus food. And it seems like it just doesn't help the image of surplus food, I think. So when you have apps like yours, that's like, you know, absolutely top of the range, and just functionality is amazing. It helps for the image of surplus food,
and the brand in itself, too good
Yeah.
to go, tells you that it's, you know, it's good. It's too good to be, you know, to be treated like this thing that's kind of just a bit of an afterthought and a bit kind of naff, if you like, for want of a better word.
Yeah, Paul, you talk something there, which I think is an important conversation to have, which is around the sort of stigma around food surplus, and particularly with yellow sticking. You know, I think, you know, I've been at friends before, and maybe they've brought something that's got a yellow sticker on, and they're trying to hide the yellow sticker, and it's, you know, it's something which, you know, we should wear with pride. You know, you actually, when we are you know, reducing food waste, when we are eating food surplus, you know, we're doing something positive for the environment, you know, and that's something that we should champion rather than shy away from. So yeah, I think there really is something around you know, around just changing this whole narrative around food waste and food surplus, and it's, you know, it's something that we should be happy to be involved in, and not something that's, you know, embarrassing at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's such an easy task for them to rebrand that yellow sticker bit in a supermarket. Just you know, make it look better. Just say, you know, the surplus food area or something like that. That'd be amazing. I think people would really respond to it as well.
It's a good thing. It's a great idea. It's just the way it's executed, I suppose. I mean, I think a green sticker would be better, surely.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah. But yeah, and you're certainly changing. You know, the conversation around surplus food. But I'd be interested, how did it get started? Where were you? Were you at uni? You know, how old were you? Where did the idea come from? And how did you actually start, right, I'm going to start this business, and how did you do it?
Yeah, well, it's quite a long story, I guess. And it's probably good to sort of start a bit about myself and my own motivations and how I got there, really. And, you know, when I'm talking to people about, you know, founding a business which is all around fighting food waste, people assume that, you know, I come from a background of, you know, whether I'm living on a farm or my parents are chefs or something, and I've experienced food waste at scale from a young age, and that's what inspired me. And the reality is I've had a pretty normal upbringing, but what my parents did instill into me was this fire in my belly, I suppose, around social and environmental justice. And this is something that's, you know, it's influenced everything in my life from prior to founding Too Good To Go. I was working in human rights law and refugee rights. But you know, when I was in this part of my life, I was actually working out in Australia. I was studying out there, working with an NGO. But if anyone's been to Australia, they'll know how expensive life is over there. So I ended up having another job, or a whole host of other jobs, I should say. And one of them was working in hospitality in the event sector. And it's there where I experienced, you know, food waste on such scale, of such grandeur. And that always stuck with me. It just never seemed right, and it didn't seem like the normal thing to be doing, or the right thing to be doing. There wasn't any solutions in place, whether that meant feeding staff or donating food, or even recycling the food waste itself. So, you know, fast forward a bit longer, and I'm working with another human rights organization, and, you know, there was an event we did, and it was catered for by a group of individuals who repurpose food. So much like the food that I previously had to throw away, they were transforming this food into something that was edible, into, you know, delicious stews or curries or casseroles, whatever it may be, but ensuring that, you know, food that was in bins could be eaten and enjoyed. And, you know, speaking to these people, I was shocked to actually find out the environmental impact of food waste. And, you know, this is back in 2013, 2014, and, you know, I as somebody who, yeah, is totally motivated and driven by environmental and social justice, was blissfully unaware, just like many other people across the country, the scale and gravity of food waste. And in essence, it got me thinking, which was, it's fantastic what people are doing, but not everybody really wants to go bin diving. So what can we do to ensure that this amazing food can be rescued before it hits the bin? And so I guess, from there, like the rest is sort of history, really. But it was through working with my co-founders. So I'm very lucky to have co-founders which are based all across Europe. So what we were able to do was to develop this movement and launch this platform in various different markets across Europe. So, inherent in our DNA is this international aspect, which has allowed us to scale and grow at the rate that we have.
Yeah. Who was the first shop? Who was the first one that you got on board?
The first business we got on board. Well, actually, when we first launched, our target was to work specifically with buffet restaurants, and the rationale behind that is quite obvious, I guess. The amount of food which is on display in buffets, and then the amount that actually gets thrown away is quite shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God we pivoted from there, because we probably would have hit a ceiling fairly on if we just stuck with working with buffet restaurants. But that's beside the point. I mean, one story that I always like to sort of regale is one of the first businesses that we worked with was a buffet chain in the UK, which is called Jimmy's World Buffet. And at the time, it was one of the buffet chains that we really wanted to work with. I think they had about 12 or 15 sites across the UK, and we managed to get a meeting with them at their flagship store in the O2 in London. And anyway, sort of I turn up to the meeting, and we'd made a deck and everything like this, but we didn't actually have a platform ready at the moment, so we didn't even have a product in which to show them. We just had an idea. We had a lot of passion, but we had some visuals. Anyway, so I go to the toilet beforehand, check my laptop, make sure the presentation's still there, close the laptop, and off I go to the meeting. And I met there with the general manager, the ops team, and the laptop wouldn't turn on. So it must have drained its battery or something from the moment I just sort of jumped into the toilet to check it was still working to the couple minutes later where I'm on the restaurant floor. And anyway, couldn't find a plug. So they're like, okay, well we'll unplug the till so you can just plug it in there. So I'm like, oh God, this is embarrassing now. You've got people on the buffet floor actually looking at me trying to get my laptop to work. Anyway, plug it in. It's charging, the lights on, but still I can't see nothing on the screen. So not only do I not have an app or product in front of me to actually demonstrate how it works, I no longer have any of the visual aids which I had to try and bring it to life a bit. So anyway, we resort just to regular conversation, and that is always one that sticks in my mind, because without any of the things that I should have had, this restaurant, it bought into our vision. It was seeking a solution, because they hated having to throw obscene amounts of food away on a daily basis. So that there is always one that sticks in my mind, and always super proud to tell that story. But anyway, so they ended up signing up onto the platform, ready for when we wanted to launch. And anyway, I jumped back on the tube, get out my laptop to see what on earth was going on, and it turns out the brightness was just all the way down. So all along.
That's a great story and typical, I think, and it just shows you that actually, if you've got something that speaks for itself, you don't necessarily need all that extra stuff.
No, and I think that is the passion which you can bring across and really convey the direction in which you're trying to bring something. It was brilliant to see people buy into it at that stage without any of an app to show people.
Yeah. You never forget your first deal, that's for sure.
No, you don't. Absolutely. And people do business with people as well, don't they?
Yeah, we say that probably every week on here, but
Yeah.
it's so true. Like if you get your passion across for it, that's you've swum the channel, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we one of our first brands on board was actually Grenade. One of the biggest. It just so happens, and we didn't have a premises. We were doing it from our back bedrooms and stuff, and storing it in our garage. And we were, just having to say, "Oh yeah, we've got a storage unit, and we keep it in there." Oh, but when we collect this pallet, we'll collect it all and we'll arrange it. Don't worry about that. And because had they have known, how small our business was and stuff, they wouldn't have done business with us. But if you get across your passion for it and your personality and things like that, that's going to be the main thing. And that's my, huge bit of advice for anyone that wants to start a business, be it a social enterprise or anything. Is that's one of the most important things, I think.
Yeah.
So were you driving around in a 3-door car with pallets and pallets of food in the back, or what's the story there?
Well, we actually got a third party to collect it for us and unload it. And actually, when the pallet got to Paul's house, it all collapsed.
Mum and Dad's house.
It must have not been very well wrapped or whatever. And so we had a pile of Grenade shakes just in Paul's driveway that had just collapsed. So
oh dear,
it's quite an early introduction to sort of failure and how things can sort of go wrong and backfire. But it's one of those stories that we can look back on and tell, thankfully. I've
got that to talk about, actually. Failure, challenges, starting a business, again, we talk about this every week, is unbelievably difficult. And getting to the size that you're at, where 65 million meals, you work with Yo Sushi, Costa Coffee, etc.
Food Circle.
What's the journey been? What challenges have you had? How many times have you failed? We fail on a daily basis. It's the life of an entrepreneur. But how rocky has that road been for you, and how did you overcome whatever challenges you've had?
I mean, it would be wrong of me to say if there haven't been challenges along the way. Of course there have. What we are seeing is we're working with, you name a whole host of brands there. You can throw some supermarkets or whatever in the mix. But the reality is these were businesses we've been wanting to work with since day dot. But some of these conversations have been going on for years. So it takes time, and there's we're finally working with supermarkets and Too Good To Go, which is fantastic. So whether that's the likes of Morrison's in the UK or Carrefour in France or Albert Heijn in other parts of Europe, the reality was that when we first launched, these people weren't picking up the phone to us. So the challenge there was to actually have a just keep building our portfolio of partners, keep fighting food waste with as many different food businesses as possible, so that we can develop these case studies and these people can listen to us and demonstrate and actually, as I say, demonstrate the success of fighting food waste. So it's been a constant a constant sort of drive of graft. It's been full of its challenges. I guess the important thing to get across is enjoying those challenges. It's full of setbacks, but it's often how you respond to those, so you can reflect and look back and see the journey in which you've been on.
Yeah. What is your personal sort of approach to failure? And you just mentioned it there, sort of responding to it and seeing it as a positive. What's your sort of, because you have to be thick-skinned, don't you? A lot of the time. What's your sort of approach there? Have you got any sort of words of wisdom around that?
Words of wisdom for responding to failure. I mean, well, talking about the failure a bit more. I mean, it's be interesting to what you guys sort of perceive as failure, because I don't really like to see it as failure, but rather a setback. So it's often as a It's not that it's not right, it's just it's not right now. So it's then about trying to create an environment which or to facilitate that can happen in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've actually just got someone literally coming to our door now to collect to collect a magic bag. Honestly, we've had like 2 in the past 5 minutes. So yeah, if any listeners can hear people at the door, that's what it is. And we actually just had our email early about 50 meals saved as well, literally this morning. And we've only been doing this a week, so yeah. So sorry to digress there, but just in case listeners wonders what's going on in the background.
Yeah. But I think you've answered the question there around failure. It's kind of reframing it almost, isn't it? It's about it's not a failure. It's a point at which to learn. And as long as you don't go under, you know. Something that you know what doesn't kill you make you stronger. That's what they say, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think people sometimes people can't handle setbacks, and that if you want to start a business and you can't handle setbacks, then it's just not going to happen. Like our first major setback was we actually had a really slow start. I mean, we had literally hardly any sales in the first 6 months of the business. Brands knocking us back, not interested, no one coming on the website breaking, all that kind of thing you have to deal with. Even now, products that don't go well,
mistakes that we make.
Yeah. James once listed some protein powder for free on the website.
That's true.
Yeah. That's true. Those sort of things happen.
Yeah, and people were snapping it up, obviously, as they would. We'd paid for it, and it was listed on there for free. But I mean, to be honest, what Paul just said, that was a steep learning curve for me in our business, like responding to failure and responding to criticism and setbacks and stuff like that. Because I think my personality type is a bit more like sort of sensitive to that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been sort of a steep learning curve for me. But I would say like we always come back to it. Like one of the key things for me was having a co-founder that could sort of balance that out, sort of thing, and that helped me to personally grow and start to accept some of those failures. And obviously you had co-founders yourself as well, so I'm assuming that you had that sort of like mini support network around you as well when you were sort of getting knocked back and stuff like that.
No, for sure. I mean, talking about struggles of launching, we can talk now about millions of meals being saved in the millions, but when we launched, it was we're talking about a handful of people using it, and what we could actually see is the drive in activity on the app when we were out there doing stuff. So physically being out, guerrilla marketing, speaking to people in the streets, you'd actually see the impact of that on a very granular basis. When again thinking back to when we launched, I was out on the street on a daily basis, 7 days a week. Everything I was doing, whether I sat in a tube or sat on a bus, I'd be speaking to the person next to me, telling them about this awesome app called Too Good To Go, and knocking on doors and knocking on business doors, 365, 24/7, and that there was not without its many doors slammed in our faces. But that's part of the journey, and that's part of the fun, really.
Yeah, I mean, what was that? Was that your approach initially, like just going door to door to like your local Costa or whatever, or your local Sainsbury's local, and just saying to the store manager or whoever was working that day, kind of, is this of interest? Is that literally where it started off?
It was very much a boots on the ground operation where we would drum up interest up and down the streets, speaking to business owners whoever would listen to us.
Yeah.
So actually launched first up in Leeds. So we got some co-working space and some funding through the university up there. And it was hammering the streets of Leeds. And then from there, we decided to hammer the streets of Brighton, and then London, and then Manchester, and it snowballed from there.
Yeah, that sort of resonates in a way, and I want to get your opinion on kind of you saying you're literally like going door to door 24/7, 365 days a year, like knocking on doors, trying to get people to sign up and stuff like that. That, I think, to me, that sounds like what sets apart like ideas that come to fruition versus ideas that don't, and maybe peter out or just don't take off. What do you think to that? Do you think that's
yeah? I mean, you've got to have that commitment, right? You've got to have that drive, and that insatiable thirst to succeed. So yeah, you could easily sit back and let the failures get to you. And you've spoken about the importance of having a co-founder. Well, having somebody running around the streets like a headless chicken with you really helped at the beginning, because when you did get a no, when you did get a door slammed in your face or someone to be rude to you, you laugh it off with somebody else. So for me, that there was definitely something that kept it fun. Sharing these experiences with somebody else made it something worthwhile, and it kept certainly for myself, it kept it being fun. By being able to do this with somebody else, or with a group of other people who all share the same passion and share the same vision that you do. It made the tough times a lot simpler, or easier to digest, I should say.
We've got a very similar story actually around that. When we first launched in January 2018, it was one of the most miserable days you can imagine.
It was horrible.
And we decided to. The thinking behind this is just completely, flawed.
I don't know why we did.
Nowadays, we'll look back on it and laugh at it, but we decided we were selling a lot of like gluten-free and vegan stuff initially, and we thought, well, where's our market likely to be? It's probably likely to be like centered around London a lot, because it's a bit more sort of maybe enlightened to these different kind of sectors than other parts of the country, perhaps rightly or wrongly. We thought that. So we decided to get a train down there and just take some like flyers, which were absolutely terrible.
I'm going to get a picture up.
Designed them ourselves, and just try and get them distributed out anywhere that we could. And we were just going around to like different cafes and stuff, getting no's, like they're saying, we can't let you do that. We can't let you advertise in here. One actually did say yes, and we were like buzzing. We were like thrilled to leave some flyers. But
Rainforest Cafe in Oxford Circus, was it?
I'm sure there's something Rainforest, something like that. Yeah.
And so in Soho.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. Thanks very much, guys. We appreciate it.
And we put some in one of the train stations at Paddington or Waterloo, and we put some down, and we saw a woman immediately pick them up and bin them straight away. So we just wasted half of our like little printing budget that we put into that in one foul swoop. And yeah, we what else did we do? We went into Holland and Barrett, because we were selling like their products at like at half of their price, and we went into the Holland and Barrett store and asked them if we could leave some, completely naively, and obviously they said no to that as well. So yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it, where you just look back and think, well, what on earth were we doing? But it's kind of that's the awful flyer that we had at the time. And you just look back and just think, I don't know, just some of the things that you do to try and get some traction.
Yeah. I was putting them in Holland and Barrett, where like the gluten-free things in. I was sneaking them in, like actually on the shelves. Someone was like, what on earth is this rubbish, and just binned it straight away, because it was terrible. We would no way. And I was putting them on like billboards on the tube, and just sticking them in there, and it's just absolutely just made no sense at all. But yeah, you're just desperate, aren't you? And at the start to just get out there. And this is before we realized, how Facebook ads work and all that sort of stuff. So but, that's for another day. But yeah, it is about that. Just you've got to be. We left a full-time job to go and do that, and people be thinking, "What are you doing? It's not going to happen." But you're an entrepreneur. You're a bit, you've got to be crazy in a way, and you've just got to have this unbelievable belief in your idea, and you're just dead set on it, and you just make it work by whatever means. And doing things like that in the early days does, gives you a feeling of progress. But yeah, you just do what you can to make it work, don't you? You got to be passionate about it.
But actually, for you, your approach had a bit of sense behind it. Because you needed to sign these outlets up, whereas we were just sort of like headless chickens running around London, just pointlessly. Like I don't know what we were doing. But anyway, we digress.
We live and learn. I think we call it the test and learn approach, right? You try something, you see if it works, and you move on.
Yeah, we didn't do it again, that's for sure.
Yeah. How do you cope with the stresses of running a business? You know, we've learned as your business gets bigger, that you actually get more stressed and there's more things that you have to deal with mentally, to try and manage the growth of your business. So what do you do? Do you look after yourself? Do you eat well? Do you exercise? All that sort of thing?
I think, fundamentally, what's important is having a good support network around you, and that's including the people you work with. So having a great team, and then having a great team in which you can trust, and that's fundamental to it. So, you can take a lot of those stress and pressures away by empowering and trusting other people to do certain things, and take on responsibilities. Outside of work, what do I do to unwind? I'm obsessed with sport. So whether that's playing sport or watching sport, that's often a good outlook for myself. I hate exercising. So when there's a team sport aspect, I can do the preseason, but I'm terrible at getting myself up in the morning and going for a run or something like that.
Yeah. It's the same. I love running, but just once a week, I wouldn't be able to do that. And I hate this. I don't think we talked about this in the podcast before, but this sort of thought of entrepreneurs have to be up at 5 a.m., meditate, do a run, eat a whole egg raw, all this sort of stuff, and work until 3 a.m. and get no sleep. It's complete nonsense. If anyone's listening and believes that and thinks that's how you start a business, no. Please don't. You have to find your own way, don't you? And I hate that.
Totally.
That's what I do.
I mean, you've got to look after yourself. If what lots of founders find is they burn out. They're working 24/7, 365. I mentioned earlier that's what we were doing when we first started out, and that's the importance of having a good team around you. So actually, you can take a step back, you can unwind, and you recognize and realize that if you take a day off, the house of cards doesn't fall down. So it's important to have those structures in place to make sure that people can step out of the business for whatever reason, holidays, whatnot, and everything keeps moving. And that's through letting go a bit. It's through empowering others. It's through delegating. It's through having good processes and things in place as well as you grow.
Yeah, that's relevant for us, isn't it, recently?
It is very relevant. Yeah. How did you transition with that? Because obviously anybody that starts an organization or an enterprise, it's kind of your baby, but you immerse yourself so passionately into this this subject of stopping meals, stopping food going to waste, and you've said yourself you're like an activist quite naturally as well. So what was that transition for you like, in terms of it's your baby, if you like, and then sort of giving bits of that up a bit at a time to help you to be able to step away?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we're talking about here is recruiting right, and it's getting people who share that same passion as you. So for us, it's having people who are passionate about fighting food waste, and particularly in the early days, we had a group of people who all shared this desire to really change the world. As we've grown, it's been important to have different opinions and different perspectives. But what we had was people who really got behind this common goal, this shared goal of fighting food waste, and trying to create a planet without food waste. I think one of the realities is it's not fair to expect for people to care as much as you. This is something that you've put literally your blood, sweat, and tears into. It's wrong of you to expect that for people to be speaking to everyone on the tube about Too Good To Go, or knocking on every door as they're walking back from the pub to try and sign them up onto the platform. it's naive to think that everyone will share that same level of enthusiasm. But what they can do is share that same passion behind that goal. And that's one thing that we've been really diligent on, is ensuring everyone as I say, shares this passion around food waste.
Yeah, totally agree. It's something that Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about as well, of like, you can't expect people that work for you to, be in the office as much as you are, or, to be going above and beyond quite as much as you are. And, if they do, obviously that's great, but they've got to have that balance as well, like we all have. It's great when you get that enthusiasm. And we've got a small team here now, which we've been building, and it's great when people are like, still here at 5:30 because they want to get something finished or whatever it might be. But it's also a case of accepting that can't just be the default, and that actually they've got to have that balance, and they've got to recharge to be at their best and to actually enjoy it.
Yeah, and working late doesn't mean that you're working hard. And it's I think we should really actually disrupt and change the way that we approach the working day. It should be what works for you, rather than the other way around.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I don't think either of us are particularly morning people, are we?
No, absolutely not. But... No, I'm definitely not. I just start to get into my stride at about 3:00 in the afternoon, I think. About to start to wake up.
I'm a bit like that with weekdays. Like I've said it before on here, but like on a Monday, I'm still warming up Monday, Tuesday, and by the time I get to Friday, I'm like firing on all cylinders, and then the weekend comes along and like disrupts it again, and I have to reset. So maybe that's a case of me having to rethink when I work, but everybody's different, aren't they? And try and play to strengths and play to different personalities as much as we can, and that's important.
Yeah, 100%. And downtime's really important as well. We didn't last year. There was not enough of us. We got told off by a mentor. Actually, she was just like, "What are you doing?" Like there was only just three of us. James and I were still like packing hundreds of orders and stuff, and she was just like, "You've got to. By the next time we speak to you, I want you to have recruited X, Y, Z, and and you've got to book off 2 solid weeks this year." And I'll be asking why you didn't have that time off if you don't, because it is so important. And you do get burned out.
Yeah. Have you got anybody at Too Good To Go, like non-execs or anything like that hold you to account for stuff, or mentors or anything like that?
So what we're really lucky to have is a great culture. So what we've invested in is people in culture managers, who really look after the well-being of the teams, but also work to sort of develop and improve individuals as well, so that everyone can grow within the business too.
Yeah.
How big is the team now, Jamie? Out of interest.
It's pretty big. There's about 800 of us now.
Wow.
Bloody hell.
So just over 800. So 9 of us co-founders, and that's it's just grown exponentially over the past 5+ years. So with that, with a team that size, it's so important to have a really, really, really strong culture.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. It's inspirational. We're gonna wrap up, but lastly, what's the future of Too Good To Go? And also, what do you think the future best before dates are, and surplus food in this country and abroad?
So I'll take the last part first then. So what's the future for best before dates and food waste in general within the UK and abroad? And for those that are listening and don't know, we have several different sort of date labels here in the UK. Everything from a use by to a best before, to a display until, to a sell by. And this confusion leads to around about 180,000 tons of food being thrown away every single year, specifically around best before dates. So that's around £500 million worth of food. So fundamentally, like, businesses need to do something to change the way in which this is communicated. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get businesses to essentially audit their date labels and switch from use by to best before when it's safe to do so, and then printing messaging on packets so that we can communicate that you should look, smell, and taste food once it's gone beyond its best before date, rather than wasting it. And this is an initiative which we are replicating across Europe. So we've launched it in Switzerland, in Germany, in France, and in Denmark. So when we're talking around best before dates, what's the future? Well, there needs to be better education first and foremost, and there needs to be greater clarity. Because what we found is we have various different sort of businesses using labels without great understanding as to why doing it. There also needs to be more continuity. I mean, across countries. So what we find in some European markets is it's actually illegal to distribute food beyond its best before date. That's the case in France. That's the case in Poland. Sorry, not in France. That's the case in Spain. The case in Poland, for example. What this means is these arbitrary dates when it comes to best before, food is unnecessarily being thrown away. So greater continuity when it comes to date labeling across the world, and better education from businesses so that individuals and consumers can make more informed decisions. When it comes to sort of the landscape of food waste in general, well, we've got a global target of halving food waste by 50% by 2030. With COP26 on the horizon, the recent publication of the United Nations Environment Programme's Food Waste Index, their encouragement is for state signatories of the Paris Agreement to include food waste in their national determined contributions. So what needs to be done? A lot. There needs to be greater measurement of food waste globally, and this needs to lead to greater action from countries globally, because what we need to recognize is that food waste is a global issue. It's not something that can be solved in one country due to globalization and the food value chains and food supply chains. It is a global market. It is a global food system, which needs a global approach. So yes, there's plenty to be done on date labels, and more generally on food waste, and wider on that within our food system. What this means for Too Good To Go is that we need to be a truly global solution. Food waste, as I say, is a global problem which needs global solutions, and with that, we want to grow to ensure that we can fight food waste across all fronts in various different markets across the world. So last year we launched in the US, and this year we'll be continuing to grow across the US and looking at where we can launch Too Good To Go in different markets as well. So an exciting time indeed for ourselves. But I think more needs to be done, but it's also demonstrates it's an opportunity, an opportunity for like-minded businesses like ourselves, but also an opportunity for governments across the world to really stand up and start doing more when it comes to reducing food waste.
Yeah, well said, definitely.
100%.
Do you think that 50% by 2030 is ambitious enough, in your opinion? What do you reckon to that?
Yeah, I think it's ambition enough and ambitious enough. It also needs to be an attainable target, right? If we set it too high, then then it becomes something which is just unrealistic. But no, I think it's so important that we actually do as much as possible to reach that goal, because when we're talking about food waste, we're talking about the climate emergency in which we're in, and we have to act now, and really reach carbon neutrality by 2050.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, listen, the attitude, like we've discussed, it's definitely changing towards best before dates for general consumers. We are starting to ramp up our education on it because, hold our hands up, we weren't doing enough for the past 2 or 3 years at all. In fact, we weren't doing anything, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, we're getting on board. Your smell it, taste it, don't waste it campaign is brilliant. And there's so many great brands that work with us as well that are getting on board with that. In terms of changing their labeling. Yeah. Shout out to Love Raw, by the way, who I know are really get behind that as well. And yeah, people might have seen on our TikToks recently, I've been blindfolded and trying a product that's 6 months out of date and trying one that's 6 months in date and seeing if I can tell the difference. And I can't. Recommend. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Actually, and the more that we've, I was an ignoramus to it, to be quite honest with you, and the more that I've, been educated on it, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, and that's not to insult people.
Yeah.
But the thing you said about Spain, where it's illegal to distribute past best before products, I think a lot of people still think that's the case here.
Yeah, they do.
People can be shocked by it, which I think you can see as like a positive in a PR sense, in that it, like, if you are doing that, it kind of if it shocks people, I suppose it generates awareness and
there's
publicity.
a chance to educate them, isn't there?
There's a chance to educate, absolutely. But I think there's still a lot of work to do. But I think the progress that we've seen over the last, we've been in this industry for 7 years. I think the progress that we've seen has been good.
Yeah.
But we need to just keep building on it, like you say.
We've had it. We've started selling past best before date, which has gone amazing. But we have had some customers say it's past best before date. What you're doing, and we've said, well, X, Y, Z. So yeah, there's an unbelievable amount of work to be done. But I think with the likes of yourselves, we're getting there, and we're a lot better off. We've made a lot more progress than we were a few years ago, and it's looking up for sure.
Yeah. And, I'd like to get in there before we finish as well, just on a bit of a tangent. Unintentionally, just because of where we are, we've had quite a Yorkshire flavour to every podcast that we've done so far, either people based here or people from around here. So even though I don't actually know where you're from, Jamie. Where are you from originally?
I'm from London.
You're from London, and you sort of based in London now, but you went to uni in Leeds, and great to hear that's where Too Good To Go started. So we're keeping that Yorkshire flavour running through it again.
Definitely, yeah. Leeds was the first city we launched in here in the UK.
Yeah,
that's class.
Brilliant. Good.
Fantastic. I really enjoyed that.
So
thank you so much, mate.
What I'd encourage everyone to do is to get following Too Good To Go on social media, get the app, check out your local area. It's really easy to use. You sign up on there, you search your local area, and if there's any outlets near you selling magic bags, which would be a selection of surplus products from any sort of outlet that we mentioned before, food producers, retailers.
Spa, big one.
Spa's quite a big one here, yeah, definitely. And I'd encourage everybody to get on that, because you can get some great value, obviously quality food, and helping the planet as well. So
it's incredible.
Like you say, it's a win-win. So I would encourage anyone to do that.
Amazing.
Thanks so much.
Cheers, guys.
Would you like to plug anything, Jamie? Anything you'd like anyone to follow or get behind?
I would echo what you said there. I encourage people to download the Too Good To Go app, available on the App Store or Play Store. Follow us on Instagram and our other social handles as well.
Excellent. And if you're in South Yorkshire or around Sheffield or Rotherham, try and find us on there and get a magic bag from us as well.
Fantastic. Enjoyed that. Thanks so much, Jamie. Really appreciate it.
Amazing. Cheers, lads.
Thanks for your time, mate. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Take care.
Catch you later.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers, boys.
I really enjoyed that. That was class. I know I say this every single week, but I really, really enjoyed it. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I think...
what a business.
Yeah, and...
Social enterprise.
Our podcasting skills just get better and better, don't they? No, I'm joking. No, it's good, really good. Obviously, we get people on that we like, when we get people on who've got great ideas and great businesses and great inventions and organizations. So I think it's no surprise that we're getting some really good conversations going.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, important conversation as well. And I don't think we've still not had a podcast where Yorkshire wasn't related in some way. I can't believe it. Jamie's from London. His business is based in London, and there's still, Yorkshire's at the heart of it.
Strong Yorkshire connection.
Yeah,
I'll tell you something else.
I'll
tell you something else that I picked up on,
What?
which I didn't mention because
Please
we sort of moved on. Is Jamie initially came up with the idea from going to Australia.
Yeah, Adam Smith.
And it reminded me of episode 4, I think it was, with Adam, the founder of the Real Junk Food Project. So it seems like if you want to come up with an innovative idea to help the planet stop food going to waste, it seems like going to Australia is the way to go.
Well, they say, don't they, travel, if you go on like a gap year or something, you find yourself.
It
and you get
broadens
inspired.
the mind.
Yeah, it really does, actually. That's so true. But no, thanks again, Jamie. Really appreciated that. That was really enjoyable. We don't have another guest lined up. I think we might do just me and you next week. Not sure at the moment.
I've got an idea I think I mentioned it before, to focus on a particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just me and you. I mean, we can do that with guests as well, but I think it'd be good for me and you to pick up a particular topic. So if anybody's got any topics that they'd like us to talk about, I'm thinking like stress could be one.
How to start a business.
How to start.
Really focus on that, because that'll be, a lot of other question on a lot of people's lips.
Yeah. Failure.
Yeah.
It doesn't all have to be negative.
No.
Passion, enjoyment.
Yeah.
We can talk about different topics like that. But yeah, really enjoying doing this actually. So if you are enjoying us making them, please let us know. Please rate.
Let us know in a review. Yeah.
Please rate and review 5 stars. If you got any feedback for us, let us know. As always, in social or in emails.
Anything less than 5 star, we don't want to know. Don't even bother.
Yeah, absolutely not.
It's just unacceptable. But no, if you really hated the podcast, like you were fuming after listening to this and just livid, please email. Seek a little bit of help first. It's only podcast, but email us and let us know how we can improve.
I'll tell you what would be nice. We could have a segment where we read people's emails.
That would be brilliant. Yeah, that's something, because I hate these outros and intros because I never know what to say. But yeah, that would help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if you want to email us, if you want to get yourself
Do you know what?
and your viewpoint on the podcast, please let us know. Please email us and we'll read them out.
Hang on, I'm going to shout someone out.
It might give us an opportunity to make a jingle as well.
Yeah.
We could make a jingle for the email segment. That'd be great.
I'm going to just read an email from
we are
a customer.
Rambling on a bit now.
I know, no, this is it. I just want to finish with this email that we had from Kathy. We had this email to our general inbox on 17th of March. Wow, you guys are awesome. Found you online randomly at the weekend. Never heard of you before. Took a chance. Delivery today and in Northern Ireland too. Super. Love your idea on reducing waste. I'll be back for more. Thank you so much. Loved that email, Kathy. I think we've DM'd you actually. But yeah, that's amazing. Love stuff like that.
Makes our day getting stuff like that.
Really does, yeah. We don't take stuff like that for granted.
We'll read out a nasty, horrible, negative one next week just to balance it all out.
Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed.
Everyone. Yep. See you next time.